There is a being far above all who live in the world of Teyvat, spanning over 6,000 years of life, and boasting to be one of the most powerful gods in the world. He is the ruler of Liyue, one of the original 7 Archons. He is the god of contracts, Morax, or as the people of Liyue call him, Rex Lapis. Many powerful beings had fallen to his dominion over Geo, and many more had joined him, sensing his benevolence and power. Despite his bloody past, and being known to be a merciless and emotionless warrior god, he is also known to be a kind ruler, one who deeply cares for his subjects. However, he does not attribute this side of him to himself though, but rather to another god. 3,600 years ago, the gods had descended from Celestia in order to bring wisdom, strength, and rule over the beings of Teyvat. They formed their own kingdoms and garnered their own followers. One such god is the benevolent Lord of Dust, Guizhong. With her dominion over dust, she shrouded the skies for thousands of miles around her in order to protect her people. She laid down 4 commandments upon her people. To unite in ambition is to be steadfast and immovable for all time. Wisdom is like water, it nourishes all those who receive it, and in it is a reflection of truth. Fortify the bones, that movement be supple when the time comes. Virtue grows tall like a tree, though there will be shade, it will flourish forever. She then brought her people to the north of Mount Tianheng, and taught them to tend the soil. Agriculture became their livelihood, and they prospered. Soon after this, Morax had descended from Celestia. Upon his descent, he immediately established his power by forming a contract with the Adepti, and in order to protect his people, he headed north of Mount Tianheng in order to meet with Guizhong. Guizhong's knowledge and kindness left an impression on Morax. Some would even say they had a romance. They established the Guili Assembly and formed the city of Liyue. The assembly was named Guili after the names of the 2 gods. They both established their alliance, but the 2 gods were more than just allies. They were friends. With the help of Guizhong and one of the Adepti named Cloud Retainer, they built the Guizhong Ballista around Mount Tianheng to keep the area safe, as more gods had descended and the power vacuum in Celestia grows even worse. Both Guizhong and Rex Lapis predict the upcoming war. The Archon War ravaged the lands, destroying any notion of peace. It quickly arrived in the Guili Assembly, where Guizhong, the Adepti, and Rex Lapis had to defend their dominion. The battle was fierce and bloody. Black dust choked the heavens, and thousands of rocks splintered. Rex Lapis had enlisted the aid of the Yaksha and the Adepti in order to secure his dominance. But even with all his strength and all his power, Guizhong fell in battle. In her final moments, she spoke to Rex Lapis amid her favorite flowers, the glaze lilies. Those little people are as small and fragile as dust. Because they are so small, they know not when they lose their lives to disaster or strife, and so they are afraid. Because they are afraid, they try so hard to become more intelligent. This I understand. So I thought that since there is such a gulf between us in strength, I should use technique and wisdom instead. With your brawn and my brains, this city would surely become a great one. Her final smile was a lonely one, even as her form dissolved into the finest dust. It seems that our journey together has come to an end. As she began to vanish into dust, she uttered her final words. This is the mark of our pledge, and it is also my challenge to you. All my wisdom is hidden within this stone dumbbell. If you can unlock it. She was unable to finish her sentence before she vanished into dust. Many years passed and he was never able to unlock that dumbbell. Despite all his power, he could not open the memory of dust. In honor of Guizhong's old teachings, he had become a benevolent lord. After many years of warring, and many sacrifices made by himself, the Yaksha, and the Adepti, he had won the dominion of Liyue and had become one of the 7 Archons. He led his people back from Mount Chanheng, and together with the people and the Adepti, they created a new city, the city we now know as Liyue Harbor. During this time, Rex Lapis managed every aspect of the city's growth. When the people were in distraught and their fate would begin to smolder, he carved a long blade made from a pure slab of golden core lapis. He cut the corner of a mountain to catch the attention of his people and took an oath. Those scattered he would gather, those who broke the contract he would punish, those who had lost their loved ones, robbed of their possessions, or deprived of justice, he would recompense. Those who break their contract would suffer the wrath of the rock. He gave the people of Liyue hope, and once more they pledged their faith in him. Another display of his amazing power is when a giant bishop earth dragon was slumbering in Nantianmen. This dragon was gigantic in size and dwarfed the very mountains that surround it. Even its tiniest movements or slightest stretch would cause the earth to tremble and shake, causing damage in the city. Rex Lapis sought the dragon in order to stop its quailing. Many thought that the 2 beings of Geo had come to an agreement, as the dragon had stopped its quailing. However, the truth of the matter is that the dragon was sealed. A sword of Geo was used to seal its power, and a giant tree had grown above it. The dragon sealed in the bowels of the earth feared Rex Lapis and the Adepti, and none with malevolent intent could undo the seal. But recently, in the present time, the dragon had begun to stir once more, the sword of Geo now missing from its seal. When the last seat of the 7 Archons had been seated, and the Archon War officially came to an end, all 7 Archons were in favor of guiding humanity towards a better future, and all of them set their actions towards this goal. Until one day, Rex Lapis had received word that the Animal Archon had come to Liyue. Believing that all the Archons were as busy as he was, there had to be a dire reason for the Animal Archon to pay him a visit. Perhaps a crisis had occurred and he is in need of support. Perhaps he had questions on how to rule. Many thoughts had crossed his mind as he went to meet with the Archon, already fully prepared to provide support. As the gust of wind arrived and rested itself on his land, the Animal Archon greeted him and tossed him a bottle. "Here's some wine from Mondstadt. Care for a taste?" Speechless, Rex Lapis let a few moments pass, thinking that the Animal Archon is one of vast neglect. For to forsake one's duty in order to deliver a single bottle of wine was a preposterous notion to him. He took the wine and bid the Archon farewell, yet the Animal Archon would visit again, and again, and again. He would visit to explore Liyue Harbor, all sorts of strange questions on his lips. The Animal Archon's questions knew as little limits as the wine in his hand. He would even invite the other Archons to Liyue, and the first of the 7 Archons would often gather with his invitation. They would drink wine, tell stories, and share ideas with one another. A moment's peace and enjoyment that all the Archons shared. To this day, Rex Lapis still remembers how those wines tasted. For but a moment in his long existence, he had peace. The world has changed much since then, and though this has all but faded into memory, 5 of the original 7 Archons all departed, losing to new Archons. The duty of guiding humanity all but forgotten by the new Archons, for 3,000 years had already passed since, and even the hardest rocks are worn down by time. During this time, the cataclysm would emerge in Teyvat. Liyue was safe and untouched during this time, as the protection of Rex Lapis may have hindered any would-be attackers. The only place the citizens of Liyue were driven from was from the chasm, where the citizens of Dunyu City had to abandon it due to the emerging abyssal influence. The chasm, now but a ruin of its former self. Due to the cataclysm, for the next 500 years, even the wind would not return to visit. Once Liyue was at peace once more, and as Rex Lapis surveyed his city on a drizzly day, He overheard a merchant telling one of his workers, "You've finished your duties. Go ahead and call it a day." He stopped and stared amidst the milling crowd. Rex Lapis thought to himself, "Have I already finished my duties?" It was at this moment in time that Rex Lapis felt like he had overstayed. Though the people of Liyue loved him and respected him, this was no longer his city. The people he once cared for all but vanished, for humans have finite lifespans that do not last more than 100 years. His fellow Archons, whom he called friends, had departed, save for Barbatos, who was still missing. He thought of departing himself, but he could not leave the city he loved, the city he cared for. It was then a contract was offered to him, an offer for his gnosis, a wager so great it would even trump the value of his divinity, a contract to end all contracts.